Howdy, Goyim.
Let's get scratching.
Alright, first things first. If you're one of those, I'm probably gonna be one of these. I don't think I can get more accommodating than a literal trigger warning, so call me a cis white male or whatever it is you do. This way, everything's streamlined. There's no reason for you to waste my time.
Everyone benefits. It is win-win-win.
Night in the Woods follows the capers of one May Borowski, a college dropout and all-around uninteresting character who shows no major development throughout the story.
No, wait. I read a little too far ahead in the script there.
Let me tell you about the good bits of Night in the Woods first. Premise. It offered a slice of life and horror combo, and I thought that could work. What if they made you fall in love with a character only to gruesomely take that character away? Decent characters. Most of the characters are pretty good.
Especially Alligator Chan.
Humor. I got a few smiles out of the lines and out of the visual comedy. I mean, sometimes it fell flat, but there are plenty of good moments.
It's not as bad as Life is Strange.
This came out of the same kind of mindset as Life is Strange, I'd wager, and it could have been much worse. World building. It really captures small-town America. It has that good old Americana feel to it. I grew up in a dying town, so I could easily believe the world of Possum Springs.
But only for the first half of the game.
These are the positives, and I congratulate Alec and Infinite Fall on what they've done. On what they've done right. I mean, you get a dang old gold star. That doesn't save this travesty of a story, and neither does it change the fact that May is a terrible, terrible protagonist.
May is the perfect character, you otherkin-shaming bigot. I'll have you know that she has the most perfectest balance of flaws and personality out of any character that's ever come out of any form of media, ever. I'm gonna have to bash a fash. I'm gonna get out the bike lock.
You insulted my favoriteest game! May is the bestest, most favoriteest cat ever! Idiot! I'll kick you in the head!
Oh god. There's a big difference between writing a character with flaws and writing a character who is a flaw. I know this is gonna ruin some of your fanfictions, but May is a friggin' awful, useless pile of cat crap. Let me tell you about May. In Night in the Woods, you play as May Bizabowskaroni, a college dropout and all-around repulsive character who shows no major develop. Oh, hey, we came back to that line.
Spoilers.
Look, I can somewhat understand that May's reason for dropping out of college has to do with her mental health problems, but the truth is they seem to have more to do with her ideology than anything else.
Oh, I'll get to that later.
What's important is that May herself states that her problems start to disappear when she returns to her hometown. They don't bother her so much she can't spend time with her friends.
Time that is objectively wasted if you spend it with Greg.
And throughout all of this, she offers no meaningful help to her family. She doesn't seek education closer to home. She doesn't look for a job. She doesn't even do basic chores around the house.
Just clean your friggin' room, you useless slob! Oy vey!
And don't even try to tell me that the bee hangouts show May being useful. She just breaks things and puts food in a bag. Bee even points out that if she wanted a job, she could do something like demolition.
Which is also a reason I'd like to point out that B-chan is the best character.
When
Spoilers.
she begins investigating supernatural kidnappings, she only makes progress in her search because A, her friends do pretty much everything for her, or B, she happens upon information by complete accident.
Also, she doesn't bathe.
The only enjoyment I got out of May's character was by laughing at her. She's just such a troglodyte nobody.
Angus is gay.
For the completely wrong person. I think Angus is a pretty decently written character, but for the life of me, I can't figure out why he spends any modicum of time with this useless—
Yes, you'll be able to buy whore.
By the way, this part's not dedicated to Angus at all. It's just about how Greg is the worst person ever, and how that basically negates one giant aspect of the story.
Greg is an immature, violent, stupid degenerate.
And he's gay!
He delights in being a criminal. I think he might be part of Antifa. Antifa?
Start up the rotors!
I can understand May's connection to Greg, because they're both scum,
and scum coagulates. But May's connection to Angus exists only through Greg, and that makes zero sense! I don't know any sensible person who really would like Greg to be their significant other.
It's almost like most homosexuals only structure their relationships around how good their pee-pee feels.
Heck, even Jeremy, or that guy, the cat, what was his name, would have been a better pick for Angus than Greg.
Maybe the abuse Angus suffered forces him to be attracted to degenerate scumbags.
One time, Greg asks May if he's a good person.
Pro tip, no!
Hey, I just needed a breather from being so angry. I just can't handle that. On the bright side, I get to spend a little time with you at least.
Willy.
This is gay. The supernatural stuff is lame. Pastor Karen is a poor spiritual leader who has a terrible and shallow understanding of her own religion. I really appreciate the realism here. What, you thought this was going to be a criticism? I did kind of organize it like that, but it's a half criticism and half praise. Karen represents about 50% of the religious leaders of the United States. They have their heart in the right place, but they're weak and refuse to explain or understand the foundations of their own beliefs. Another 47% just want your money, another 2% touch kids, and about 1% are competent enough in philosophy and theology to actually defend and act upon their beliefs. Judging by the game's imagery and
The fact that Karen's a female pastor.
I'm gonna presume there's some kind of combination between Catholic and Pentecostal, which makes sense considering Pentecostals are located in this 50% part of the graph. Here's an example of Karen's stupidity.
If you want the truth, I think everyone doesn't believe in God for at least a few minutes a day.
I asked a more theologically apt friend of mine to evaluate this, and his response was,
Wait, is this nibble trying to get her people to leave our church?
he came up with a version of Pastor Karen's spiel that's... It's just a much more competent answer, even if you're not particularly religious. Well, I think everyone always has a desire to believe in God, but when we are hurt or we are distracted, we want to push that desire to the corners of our mind. Another thing is that this spiel isn't a result of Pastor Karen's ignorance. Karen just represents one of the anti-religious projections of the writers. It's him who's, or her, or she, who's equally as ignorant. But what's worse is that this ignorance is coupled with pretentiousness. Look, I'm of the opinion that you can criticize any religion you want, alright? As long as you just do it well. Guess what? They didn't do it well. You know why? Because they added God. God is a character in this game. Presumably, a creator god.
Also, this is what you came up with for God? It's terrible and poorly written.
The main problem with including a purposeless God character in a game is that God and purpose are intrinsically linked. If a creator god exists, it does not logically follow that it would purposefully create a purposeless universe, you You'd have been better off just not introducing this entire idiotic God character concept at all. You can keep the whole I don't believe in God anymore concept for May, but if you're gonna do that, at least do it intelligently. Leave it vague. Leave it to be a result of a conversation with something other than God. Or maybe just some passing thought. It's bad. It's so bad. Why did I go on this tangent regarding spirituality and religion? Because that's the closest to fun or interesting that you'll get when it comes to the supernatural elements of this game. The horror is lame. Do you know who the bad guys are?
It's a cult of right-wingers! Woo!
I'm not even joking. The designer of this game is a
Left-wing leaning parasite.
and this is the big scary monster to him. The supernatural crap goes nowhere, and the protagonists literally just leave after finding the cult. And the cult basically lets them.
Wow, those evil right-wingers, am I right?
If this one butthurt guy who Greg shot didn't decide to teleport to scare them, kind of, they would have just kept culting on around. The worst part is, there was a basis for some freaking awesome monster art, or Cthulhu tier spooky stuff. This ending was terrible. It's like they gave up on the horror route halfway through, and tried to force the story back into a small town slice of life bit. It didn't work at all, and it kind of made the game retroactively worse. May I suggest a better ending for this game? One of the protagonists falls down the hole. Perhaps the friend you've spent the most time with. May has to go down to save them. We already know that she can survive tall falls from the mild platforming throughout the previous half of the game. Maybe you turn it into a mini stealth section where you hide from the black goat. Or maybe it's a little boss fight. If you spent more time with Greg, use the crossbow. If you spent more time with B, use the bat. Or maybe both. Maybe have no combat at all. Maybe just have some eerie conversation with the black goat. A conversation that only May remembers. Then you can leave it open as to whether or not anything supernatural happened. Or if May's mental state is just deteriorating further. These ideas are just half-baked crap that I've tossed around with some friends, and it's still better than the ending they gave us.
That was a joke. I don't have any friends.
Political crap.
This may come as a surprise to you, but I am not a leftist. I know the game's developers are pretty far left because Canada, but unlike raging leftists, I was willing to put political differences aside for a well-put-together game.
The thing is, the game wasn't well put together.
You want to know something interesting? All that SJW crap that I saw littered throughout the story the first time, I interpreted that as perhaps a poke at overzealous leftism. I thought maybe it was them being self-aware, logical, or maybe even centrist. Nope, turns out all those moments were actually unironic pandering.
Republicans is the devil.
I'm not even a Republican.
I just have no patience for commies.
I'm no communist, I'll tell you that right now.
I'm willing to forgive you. Just this once, Gator-chan. Though I said it's not as bad as Life is Strange, it falls into many of the same problems. May is basically Chloe. Well, a combination of cripple Chloe and degenerate Chloe. Besides stealing...
Oh wait, they are both scumbag thieves.
Guns...
One of my guns is missing.
And spending an inordinate amount of time smoking weed, they're basically the same immature, useless... What?! Why would you think I'd want to play as this terrible, awful person? Wait a minute. Are these kind of characters a fetish? Tumblerinas are typically carbon copies of these terrible, awful characters. I wonder, is this like a self-insert character? That'd be like the most ironic redefinition of Mary Sue ever. Instead of a flawless character with no problems, it's a super flawed character who never gets punished. Ugh, I am not in the mood to digest that. Supernatural crap is shoehorned in. Life is Strange never explained the time travel or why time travel screwed up the world, and neither does Night in the Woods go anywhere with its supernatural elements.
I will reiterate this impossibly stupid ending 1,000 times to reinforce my point.
Many character relationships are terrible. Angus doesn't fit with Greg. From what I've seen of them, their relationship can only possibly exist through sex, and that's just shallow and stupid.
Although apparently very realistic.
And B is certainly too good for May or Greg. B even seems to kinda hate May. I mean, for good reason, granted. Choice doesn't matter. You know how in Fallout New Vegas, you could literally decide the fate of nations? But you had to build up the conclusion to those nations by making meaningful political relationships and playing your hand wisely. Apparently the devs of both Life is Tumblr and Night in the Woods have never played Fallout New Vegas.
What color ending do you want, little Jimmy? Fox butt or gator tail?
That's right, little Jimmy. Hang out with one and only one of your friends and you'll be able to hear their character-specific spiel at the end of the game. Alternatively, you can just dance between both of them and end up with an even more boring conclusion. Stephen King lives by a certain editing motto. When you write a story, you're telling yourself the story. When you rewrite, your main job is taking out all the things that are not the story. Night in the Woods has a lot of things that are just not the story. Or that are flaws in the story. Yeah, the relationship stuff is cute and the horror could be something, but I feel like one is getting in the way of the other. They don't have to get in the way of each other, but something clearly isn't working. Back to Stephen King. When he first wrote Carrie, he came across two problems. First, the story didn't move him emotionally. And second, he didn't much like the main character. Who is May supposed to be? She's not a conduit for the player to live through, that's for sure. Half her dialogue choices result in the same line. But she's also not a strong character. She doesn't sufficiently mature or change at all. Even her going apostate was boring, predictable, and just dumb. Alright, What if this story was retold with the same immature May, who, with the help of her friends, learns to become an adult, and perhaps even helps her friends grow as adults?
No, wait, I forgot. Regressive leftists eternal whiny children, so that wouldn't make any sense.
Maybe they should all just get killed by the cult at the end.
Today, by now, I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do. Backbeat, beat, I'm sure.